Hello everyone, Lytro Storm here, and today we're back with What If Carley and Doug Survived. This is part 3, and by this point it really has just become What If Carley Survived, for reasons that you would know if you watched the first 2 parts, which you definitely should before watching this one, as it won't make sense otherwise. So feel free to use the link in the description or comment section in order to catch yourself up. But with that, we can finally get into Carley returning, because she wasn't really in part 2 for long. So let's go ahead and dive in. After the events of Season 2, Clementine was left with a few different endings, but they all end up with the same result, placing her right where she needs to be in Season 3. So let's go ahead and go through our 4 endings. The Wellington ending goes the exact same, as only Clem and AJ could be accepted, which is the same scenario as in canon. The Kenny ending adds Duck, which pretty much makes the group Kenny's babysitting squad, but I do still see him either trying to teach Clementine or Duck how to drive, resulting in him being paralyzed and sacrificing himself for the kids. Duck is obviously very hard-pressed to leave his father behind like this, which splits the decision from normal dialogue options and helping Kenny, down to just helping Duck try and move Kenny, or grabbing Duck by the arm and urging him to leave with you. If you pull Duck and try to convince him, he'll eventually relent and escape with Clementine and AJ, leaving Kenny to be devoured by the walkers. However, if you try to help him pull Kenny, it's not a positive result, as he can't easily shove both Duck and Clem away, so he's only able to shove Clem, resulting in Duck being bitten and dying with his father. This horror forces Clem to run away with AJ, never looking back. As for the first house ending, we know how Jane ends up, and I don't see her thinking the position was stable enough to bring a child into the world. This would then make Sarita and the others want to leave, as House has only been a source of hurt for them. Sarah would also be here if you kept her alive throughout Season 2, but it wouldn't last long, as they'd eventually come to blows with a large walker herd which separates them. Sarita and Sarah likely die during this, but they could still be out there somewhere. And lastly, in the ending where you convinced Kenny to stay with the rest of the group, you'd all be staying at House, with Jane still likely not making it from her canon death. But with the group being bigger, they choose to stay put at House until a group attacks their settlement, which is pretty much the same as the Wellington attack. To keep the kids safe, Kenny makes a sacrifice play, while Sarita escapes with the kids. Unfortunately, Sarita also perishes during this attack too, with Sarah dying if she's still here. Duck and Clementine barely escape with AJ in tow, and finally, all of our paths converge. Duck is with Clementine and 2 of them, but the rest see Clem alone with AJ. I'm gonna talk like Clementine is the only one here, but just imagine that in true Telltale fashion, Duck is also in the background for other versions. Clementine carries AJ as she runs through the woods, exactly the same as the canon version. She makes it inside only to hear the voice of a woman. The woman eventually gets inside, identifying herself as Ava. She has a small talk with Clementine as she did canonically, except that she mentions having a partner who she got split off from. She then offers Clementine to join her group, the New Frontier. Clem can accept or deny this request, but shortly after, they'll hear someone fighting outside, and Ava rushes out to see what's going on. She helps kill the walkers, which prompts Clementine to do so as well, and once the small herd is cleared, Ava hugs the mysterious person who was fighting them. Clem hears them rejoice about finding each other, and then sees who the person is. It's Carley. Carley and Clementine meet eyes for the first time in years, and proceed to hug as well. Duck might also have some added dialogue about how Carley saved him all that time ago. After this, Carley takes Clem and Duck back to her group with Ava, and they join the New Frontier. During their time there, I could easily see David taking on a father figure role to Duck, as he bears many similarities to Kenny. With Duck having lost his father so recently, he's happy to have someone fill those shoes, in a similar way to Kenny replacing Katja with Sarita. This leads to Duck being more loyal to the New Frontier, and understanding just how nice things are with them. As for Clementine, she'd be the closest with Carley due to their shared history, and Carley would be growing further from the New Frontier. She doesn't have that connection to David that Ava has, and their policies and methods have become more stringent over time, which doesn't fit well for Carley's personality. Some time passes and AJ gets sick, which forces Clementine to steal some vancomycin. She gets caught, resulting in David yelling at her. He says that Clem's time with the New Frontier is done, which Carley obviously doesn't like, and gets angry at David for being so harsh. This is her kid they're talking about. Letting him die when they have a chance to save him is wrong, even if it costs them some meds. David is taken aback and lashes out at Carley for her constant rebellious attitude and says that this is the last straw. He now knows where her loyalty lies, so she can go lie with them. Ava then cautiously reminds David of how long Carley's been with them, but Carley asks for Ava not to speak for her. She's done with this group anyway. Clementine tries to get AJ, but David refuses to give him up like he does in the game. They won't make it with him out there on their own, and if they really wanted him safe, They'd keep him with the big group who knows what they're doing. Clementine asks Duck if he's there, if he's even gonna say anything, but Duck just replies that he warned her it was a bad idea. And David's right. This is the best way to keep AJ safe. With this, Clem is given her last chance to say goodbye to AJ before her and Carley are forced to leave. Ava later brings a package for them with some supplies and a drawing from AJ. She says goodbye to Clementine and is especially sad when saying the same to Carley. Ava wishes the two luck and departs to leave the girls alone. After this, the two make something of a plan on how they are going to carry forward together. Sometime later, Clementine and Carley end up staying at Prescott for a while. Clem seems to always be ready to move, while Carley wants to settle down. She likes having a home, and she likes the people there. So Clementine goes out one night and ends up saving Javier from the New Frontier. Clem takes Javi back to Prescott, where they meet back up with Carley and Tripp. There, Carley is able to prevent Clementine from gunning down the jerk who ripped her off, and instead forces him to pay double what she gave him. He agrees, so nobody has to spend the night in a cell. Tripp offers to take Javi to find his family in the morning, with Eleanor offering to go tonight. Carley offers to help Javi no matter what time he goes, as she doesn't want him to lose his family. Things go the exact same from there, except that when they get attacked, Carley tries to get Clem to leave, but Clem refuses. Because of this, Carley will leave if Javi stays with Clementine, or she'll stay if Javi leaves. After the attack, Javi will talk to either Carley or Clem about their relationship with the other in order to understand them better. Not too long after everyone is regrouped at Prescott, it gets attacked by Badger and Max, causing its destruction. Luckily, everyone important escapes, with Carley included. Not much has changed here, except that Carley would probably step in to keep Gabe from shooting Conrad. She remembers a similar scenario from her past. The vehicle pulled over at night, an argument, a gun drawn, but she wants to prevent something like that from happening again to someone else. Gabe ultimately puts his gun away, and the gang continues on. Jesus joins their group and leads them through the subway tunnels, where Carley and Clementine reveal their former status of being part of the New Frontier. Conrad overhears that, taking Carley hostage and forcing Javi to turn her in when they get to Richmond. Carley tries to talk Conrad down calmly, but he just isn't giving, so she tells Javier to just go along with it. It still remains Javi's choice to shoot Conrad or not. If he does, Carley gets upset at him, as she was willing to be their bargaining chip. She knew the New Frontier people and doesn't think they'd kill her or anything. Seeing how Conrad reacted, Clem chooses to leave before they make it to Richmond, saying goodbye to Carley and the others. Carley would also tell Tripp what happened, defending Javi's actions despite disagreeing with them. This hurts their relationship a little, but it's better for them overall. In the version where you didn't kill Conrad, Clementine waits until the others make it up the ladder and stays behind to avoid going back to the New Frontier. Conrad explains the plan of using Carley to Tripp and the others, and they carry forward. After arriving at Richmond, David takes in Kate, with Gabe following him. The rest of the crew are then thrown into quarantine, with Carley asking Conrad how well this little scheme worked out for him. If he's alive, of course. From here, just about everything lines up with the canon events, with the group being kicked out of Richmond. Javi would have the choice of keeping Conrad's gun for himself, giving it to Carley, or giving it to Conrad if he's there. Obviously, giving it to Carley is fitting in both a getting even with Conrad's sense, and also because Carley's meant to be a great shot, which Javi probably saw in prior fights. Clementine returns to save Javi from some walkers, only if Carley didn't get Conrad's gun, as I imagine she could have taken them out herself with a gun. The group makes it to the place marked on the map, but since Carley is an added person, they're able to hold up the fences longer for Javier to find a way inside. However, having that extra person also makes it more likely for walkers to catch someone before they all make it. If Conrad got the gun, this helps them all make it inside safely, but if Javi took it, then Conrad dies. In addition, if Carley had the gun, she helped save Javi but expended most of her ammo. This makes the gun not very useful at this point, which means Conrad dies in that version as well. The rest of the crew make it inside, letting David in, with Carley and Clementine both being angry at him for letting AJ die. But luckily, David reveals that AJ is still alive and well, which tones down the drama. They find Badger, Max, and Lonnie, and battle them. Carley is able to help catch Lonnie, meaning Joan won't see them coming. They're able to sneak in and do all the same stuff as in canon, like recruiting Ava, only here we'd have another returning character. This is Duck, whom Ava sought help from in order to help his father figure, David. Of course, this is only if you kept Duck alive. I'm sure he probably would have been mentioned to Javier once or twice by Carley, Clementine, and David. With Duck there, he steps in to prevent Javi from being cut by the New Frontier guy, which makes Dave feel a little inadequate. This kid around his age, who was best friends with Clem, just saved his uncle, and not him. They carry on, getting info from Lingard, and confronting Joan. They now have Lonnie and potentially Max as proof, but Lonnie simply lies and pins everything on Javi and David. This is enough to get them locked up again, before Javier breaks out with the help of Kate or Gabe. They regroup with Duck and Clementine returning. There'd probably be some bitterness between the two, mainly from Clem, but Duck thinks it'll end up alright now that they're working together again. Obviously, this interaction doesn't happen if Duck isn't in your playthrough. From here, we have pretty much all the same events happening as they did in canon. Carley stays behind at the apartment, leading to her being caught by Joan and set as one of Javi's options at the lineup. Duck isn't present despite being captured, since it would obviously be bad for Joan to gun down a literal child in front of a crowd. But he is a useful pawn to keep David from acting out. Javier chooses to spare Carley, Ava, or Trip, with Joan killing whoever it is you choose. But it's an act of mercy, since she only killed one person instead of two. Obviously, if you choose Carley, the what if kind of ends there. Everything carries out the exact same going forward. But if you choose Ava or Trip, well, it depends. If Trip died, then Carley would be overwhelmed by the walkers in his place, and if Ava died, then I imagine the walker that jumped on Ava would take Carley instead. This then leads to Trip being killed anyway, so no matter what, all three would realistically die in these three ways. But it is possible that Trip still goes first, which prevents Carley from being attacked by the walker. This then leaves both Trip and Carley on the other side of the herd, with no real way out. And I can't imagine Carley being resourceful enough to think of using the walker guts like most characters do in these what-ifs. I mean, she didn't even know when a radio didn't have batteries. And maybe Clem could think of it, but I doubt she'd have enough time to think of it, then relay this information to Carley, and then have Carley also perform the act. This would also be Carley's first time doing the trick, so it would be even more unlikely for it to happen. Now, there is the possibility of Javier letting Carley swing onto the helicopter before him, with Carley accepting the offer. But that means Javi is left to die instead. It's possible he could fight his way out, since he's one of the top tiers of the verse, but I feel like there's just too many walkers in too tight of an area for him to make it out. Not to mention the rebar everywhere, and the fall to his death. So one wrong move and he's pretty much done. So in this version, Carley would survive in Javier's place. Kate, Gabe, and David are all going to be extremely torn up about Javi's death, probably more than a 2-second sadness like they showed for Ava, but they're talked through it by Carley and Clementine. David eventually takes the reins back and says that they have to keep going, as it's what Javi wanted. From here, Carley or David replace Javier's role with the walker guts and get them in the garage. David then comes up with the decision to leave, which Kate refuses to do, while also bringing up Javi's death. They have an obligation to save these people. David disagrees and chooses to leave, with Gabe going with him. From here, Carley will go after Gabe and David as she feels like she owes it to Javi to keep his family safe. Clementine makes her decision based on the flashback choices, and from here, all the endings line up with the canon endings, just with Carley subbing in for Javi. So if Clem goes with Carley, David and Gabe survive. If not, David dies. No matter what, Kate dies unless Clementine went to Richmond. Well, she still dies then too, but not if you add Duck in your version of events. He'd show up to help Clem and Kate, apologizing for not meeting up with them sooner. He was held by some of Joan's people and barely escaped when the walkers attacked. Together, they take down all the walkers, with help from Jesus and his crew. After saving Richmond, Carley and Clem make the choice to go after AJ. Duck chooses to stay behind, as he's saddened over the death of David, or he's trying to help his surrogate father find his place again, now that his blood family has been torn apart. I'm not sure who would become the new leader of Richmond. Maybe it'd be left to whoever you have left. Gabe and Duck are obviously too young, but maybe if David is alive, he could take full leadership. It could also fall on Lingard if he's alive, maybe Kate, I don't know. All of these options feel kind of half-baked, as I don't think any of them would even want to lead anymore, with the one exception of David, though even then his image is probably burned a little due to the events that just took place, and also his personality. But I guess that kind of makes sense. Javier is dead, so the person most qualified isn't there anymore, leaving whoever you kept alive as duct tape for Richmond. This is sort of like the neutral endings in Undertale, if anybody has ever played that, where whoever is left will rule the underground. But at the end, Carley and Clementine leave Richmond in order to go find AJ at McCarroll Ranch. And that ends this part of What If Carley and Doug Survived. It was cool seeing Duck actually make it decently far in a What If, and also being able to write him with David, as I think their connection really does make sense. Carley got a few interesting moments too, which is cool, but ultimately not too much, as A New Frontier really doesn't offer that much in terms of slapping in an extra character. Next time we'll cover the finale, but first let's address our members. Ellie DePlug 2, Paul Keen, Hazy Brush, I Am Bored, Roderick Hare, Raven, Scintillating Susie, Marco DeCinco, Crayman, Sam Malum, Davisville 84, Willie, 23 Days Later, River Lamphere, Anarchist Dubs, Aiden Kearns. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and if you want to do so as well for only $2.99 a month, feel free to become a channel member, and you get access to awesome perks like obviously having your name read out, priority comment replies, exclusive community posts, and you get to see videos earlier. But if you don't have the money, you can also just like and subscribe. But as always, tell me if you liked this part, tell me what you think will happen next, comment your requests for future videos, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.